You are listening to the Adapt Performance Podcast, where we aim to make elite level strength and conditioning accessible to everybody. I'm your host, Jordan Webster, and let's get into the episode. Yes, guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode. And today is going to be a little bit of a different one. Okay, so I'm going to be talking through something that I feel is underrepresented. I don't feel like we probably discuss this enough, and it is around the topic of energy, but energy not in the sense of, creating mechanical energy from, fuel and that type of thing. As far as physical adaptations, it's more around, the people you surround yourself with, and it's not necessarily rah, let's go type of energy, but the general feel of a room, of you as a person, the team around you, all those types of things. And I just want to kind of see where I end up with this. And just give you some of the perspectives that I've learned from working in elite sport, and then also from working at different levels within sport as well. So working at a kind of grassroots level, really trying to, create positive, long-lasting changes on a young athlete, and they'll hopefully carry them through the career. And then also, currently what we do at Adapt is, being a coaching team, a performance team that really tries to lead our athletes through different times in their life. And it's not always just about sport. Obviously we have the physio, the nutritionist, the psychologist, as well as the S&C coach in the community around us. So I feel like there's a lot of problems, a lot of life changes that happen through our business and through our coaching. So yeah, I want to kind of give some thoughts on the idea of energy. And yeah, it's probably a little bit more hippie-ish than I've ever really spoke about, but I'm going to roll with it anyway. And I just think it's so important. And it's, when you leave a conversation with somebody, or you leave a social situation, or you just leave a place and you're like, wow, that had good energy. Like, it just had a feeling. It's made me feel a certain way. And I feel like I can run through a brick wall. I'm that motivated, after speaking to somebody that or whether you leave a room thinking, fuck me, right? That was absolutely draining. That was a rough conversation, and they are absolute mood hoovers. So I want to kind of go through a few things, and I actually got thinking about this because I've got a book on my shelf that is called The Energy Bus. It's by a guy called John Gordon. It is 130 pages. So if you're not really a massive reader like me, it's probably worth it. It's more of a storybook type thing, but has some lessons wrapped up in it. Does that mean it's a parable? I don't know. Somebody let me know. But one of the chapters in this book, and the whole book, just to give you a bit of a background, essentially, your life is a bus. That's the analogy that they use. And there's certain, things that the bus will go through as part of their journey, or kind of heading towards a certain destination. Flat tires, people that you let on the bus, people that you kick off the bus, who is driving the thing, etc., etc. Okay. But one of the things within one of the chapters is around energy vampires. And this is a true thing that I just think about it all the time, to be honest with you. And I'm going to read it from the book now. I call the people who drain your energy vampires, and they will suck the life out of you, your goals, and the visions if you let them. They will cause an engine leak on the bus, make your ride miserable, or even worse, slash your tires. But remember, don't take it personal. They are just part of the negativity that exists in the world. Your job is to do your best to eliminate any negativity on your bus, and that includes negative people, negative energy. And I really like that. I think it's true. If you are essentially the driver of your bus, you're in total control of it, and I feel like this is where people probably don't give it enough respect. Like, you are in control of your life, whether you feel like it or not. You can do literally anything in the confines of, societal law. There's certain things you would be, that people would kick off about, of course, but you literally can do anything, so you kind of getting out of a bad relationship, changing your coaching team, going to a different, sport, going to whatever those things are, you can do it all, you can do anything. You can't necessarily do it all. I feel like that is a different problem in itself. But yeah, energy vampires, I think it's a true thing. And I think it's such a drain on people. And I see it all the time with athletes, like, genuinely, I think the people that do the best and people that seem the happiest are the ones that get themselves around their tribe, their people. And I don't know if you've heard the saying before around, if you hang around with five happy people, you will be the sixth. And that applies for everything. You know, if you hang around with 5 healthy people, you'll be the sixth. Wealthy people, you'll be the sixth. I also think if you hang around with 5 negative people that are doing fuck all with their life, you will be the sixth, you know. And I really do think you're a product of your environment. So I think controlling that is something, you know, you need to kind of think about. And that's why, you know, like there's so many reasons I love what I do as a coach, and particularly around like Adapt itself is, you know, the people that come to us, or at least, you know, are curious about coaching, they're already making a conscious decision to be like, right, I want to put myself in a scenario where people have a skill set, they have a vibe, they have an energy, you know, that works for me, and I really want to be a part of that. I really want them to enrich my life. And I love that we've kind of we've created this, this you know, this magnetic force in a way. It makes me feel good that is part of what we do on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I think the number one thing for me here is like surround yourself with positive people. You know, get rid of the energy vampires if you've got them. And just to kind of put a slight caveat on this, I think there is positive energy. And I also think I'll say the word toxic positivity, but not necessarily toxic in the sense of, I feel like it's kind of used as a little bit of a buzzword, and it has like a little bit of a negative connotation to it. And it probably deserves to, because the word toxic itself is like a poisonous thing. But I do think being so positive and so rah is actually a bad thing at sometimes as well. I feel like that's probably a protective mechanism for some people in terms of actually dealing with, you know, real problems and actually acknowledging problems that are in front of them to actually feel sad and all those types of things. So I don't mean that. I think there's an authenticity behind, you know, somebody just having like a good feel, and everybody's version of this will be different. You know, you could come and hang around with some of my friends and be like, that was weird. You know, it'll definitely be weird. Or you could go to like a different group and be like, oh, they were my people. You know, you have your own version of what this is. So it's not like a universal thing that you're seeking. It's just where you fit in. So yeah, surround yourself with positive people. Nobody wants to be around a mood hoover. So let's look at the next thing that I've kind of got written down here is around perspective, you know. And I think I genuinely, I think about this all the time. Is like I'm really happy, you know, at the moment, and I think it's sick. You know, I love it obviously, but it comes from being, if you've ever been unhappy, like it's the fucking worst in the world. If you've ever had a long-term injury where you can't do the thing that you love to do, or you know, you've got money troubles, or career isn't going the right way, or you're stressed out about a deadline, or you know, all those things. Okay, they're bad. Okay, they are bad things. But guess what? The fact that you are in a situation in life where you can stress about career, you know, or you can stress about, you know, you had a bad day at work, or you've got a bit of an injury. If those are your worst like things going on in your life, you are super lucky, because there's people that don't have food, there's people that, you know, don't have a family, there's people that are just around death and violence and all those things all the time. And you know, I think a little bit of perspective on actually what you do have is so powerful. And it's just like the other side of that is like a victim mentality of like, oh, you know, I can't catch a break. You know, this is happening to me. This is happening. I just get rid of them people. You know, like they're not going to enrich your life in any way, shape, or form. You want like somebody that's going to, you know, a bit of get up and go, a bit of, you know, let's do something about the situation. And that's not to say you can't moan and you can't complain about things. And we all have bad days, and you all need to get that, you know, that toxicity out of you. You know, sometimes you do need to have a little bit of a rant, and that's fine. That is totally natural. And we all have those, and we can all be negative people. Of course, that's a part of being a human. So I'm not necessarily talking about avoid all of that all the time, but it cannot be a huge part of who you are, in my opinion, you know, based on, you know, the successful people that I've been around. So it's like thinking about gratitude, like it's the other side of the perspective thing. Well, what do you have that you can be really happy about? What are some of the things that are going on that you're really pleased that happens? And you know, I've done gratitude journals in the past, and I think they're really powerful. And it's not something I've stuck at for long periods of time, but I feel like it's really kind of made me think about things a little bit better, and then that kind of carries forward. It generates that momentum. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of, you know, everything to do with gratitude and just thinking about like actually how good you have things going on at the moment. And also, if you don't have a lot of good things going on at the moment, like that will pass. So yeah, and I think yes, when was it? I'm trying to think when it was. It was last week. We had some really nice weather actually. I went on a long old walk and I got a I'm trying to think. So Gary Hutt, who works at the EIS with GB Boxing, a good friend of mine, good mentor of mine, and we were speaking through Alan Watts. If you haven't come across Alan Watts, he's definitely worth a watch and a listen. I think he's dead now. I think he's been dead for quite a while, but I believe he is. I'm going to say he's a philosopher, and he has religious roots somewhere. Yes, guys, what is going on? Quick break in today's episode for me to remind you about ADAPT's online strength and conditioning coaching. Our mission really is to make elite level strength and conditioning accessible to everybody. And our service does exactly that. So you get access to everything: an elite level coach, physiotherapist, psychologist, nutritionist, a community to keep you engaged. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is give you everything you would ever need in order for you to achieve your goals. So if that is something that you are curious about, get in contact and we'll just have a no pressure chat where I explain everything, find out a little bit more about you, and we can decide whether you are a good fit for our program. Okay, without further ado, let's get back into the episode. Cheers. I think it might be Buddhism, I'm not too sure. And he does little speeches and, lectures or lessons, and, just put them on and just listen, and I don't go into it to try and achieve anything. Don't go into it to try and achieve, motivation or spiritual guidance. Just listen, see where it kind of takes you. And he has one. I'll stick this in the show notes below as well, and it's called Life Is Not a Journey. And the idea being that we all kind of have this pre-built-in societal pressure of like what makes our life run the way it does. And okay, we grow up, we go to school, they put us through, certain grades, and, we leave having these essential life tools of reading, writing, and, potentially even suppressing creativity and all that. And you keep going through these stages in your life, and you're like, okay, this success is coming, we're building towards it, we're saving money until we retire, and then you die, and it's not a journey in the sense of, okay, because the journey has an end. And I think you could potentially forget to enjoy the certain bits there because we're all rushing towards that next big thing, but you're just rushing towards a grave. So he says, well, actually, life is probably better explained through, the analogy of music. The point of music is not to get to the end. Like, the point of music isn't to play that last final chord. Otherwise, top of the hits or whatever it's called, that probably shows my age there, but like the best composers in the world are not the ones that just do the finales. Otherwise you just turn up, you'd pay £200 for a ticket, boom, they play the last chord, amazing. The point of music is to enjoy the music, and similar to life, it's like there are things going on at the moment that you deserve to be super happy about, and you deserve to be, really proud about some of the things that you are achieving, or some of the things that you are avoiding, like cutting out the negative people. And I really liked that video, and it gave me a lot of perspective in terms of, I think a part of being a driven individual, I'd say I am, I'd say you are, the fact that you are listening to this type of podcast tells me you're a certain type of person. And you could get so fixated on just like chasing down the goal and going and going and going, but you chase down the goal so much and you're not actually living in the present moment of actually ticking off some of the things. And I thought it was super interesting. So yeah, I think thinking of it like one singular music, thinking of life like a little bit more musical, enjoy it, sing, dance, all that stuff. And again, kind of brings me back to another quote that I heard on a podcast yesterday. And it's definitely, I'm not going to be able to recite this quote word for word, but the idea that we chase down success, whatever success is, whether that is financial, whether that is a job title or winning a championship or whatever. And it's interesting how we acknowledge that there is a certain amount of sacrifice and commitment, sacrificing a little bit of short-term happiness in order to work towards success, thinking that success is going to bring you happiness, which is really interesting. So you give up happiness in the short term to achieve success, thinking that the success is going to bring you happiness. If you cut out the success and you just have happiness and just chase the goal anyway, without putting too much actual worth on that finish line being the thing, it's really interesting. I can't make sense of it in my mind. I don't think I think you go to Tiger Woods or you go to Michael Jordan and you start asking them about success and happiness, I would say that they're probably not super balanced. I don't think, we might want their level of success and mastery in a sport and in life or whatever, but we probably don't want what's going on under the hood. And I do feel that anyway. I do feel like a majority of the people that we hold in high regard in terms of like society and expectations, they're probably not the ones that you would want to replicate, their mental health behaviors. Because I do think there is something that I don't believe in balance. Actually, I don't think that work-life balance and stuff like that is a thing at all. I think the people that really try and chase work-life balance don't really accomplish much. I think it kind of acts on a little bit of a sliding scale sometimes. I think you need to have periods where you can fucking send it and then times where you pull back. Same with training as well. As like a training example, I feel like people that obsess over technique the most are not the strongest and probably actually get injured the most. So I think obsessing over one thing isn't always the best. But anyway, that was a tangent. So yeah, going back to that then, happiness and success, really interesting. If anybody can make sense of that whole little, ramble, help me out. But I think, perspective, gratitude, okay, enjoying where you're currently at, not necessarily putting too much weight on the end goal, even though I know that that is important. Okay, so you got to understand how I've kind of got these conflicting things in my mind, and it's hard to have a conversation back and forth when I'm literally kind of speaking to myself. But yeah, so we all have bad days, but I think getting through those by putting yourself around positive people, perspective, gratitude, and just thinking about, where you want to be. And then the final little thing that kind of helped me and a little bit of a story around it is pre-COVID. So I was working at University of Warwick and we got, I can't remember how much money, we got like a pot of money to spend on like a course. You could learn to swim, you could do squash lessons, badminton, I think you could paint or whatever. And I did a mindfulness course, and I think it was 10 weeks. So we had like an online lecture, there was some like pre-reading, stuff like that. And it was sick. It was so cool. And it really kind of helped me at a time where I was super stressed, and I probably was a little bit more of the negative person. And one of the things that I really, really liked was a body scan. And a body scan is essentially, again, I'll put this in the show notes below, so go and check these out. It's like a 10-minute video that you just put on, lay on the bed, lay on the floor, wherever you are, and just listen to it and just, follow the instructions around how he's telling you to breathe and trying to be aware of certain things that are going on within your body. Like, what can you feel at your feet? Okay, what are the sensations? Okay, that type of thing. And as a tool to get you present and really kind of get you not thinking, not just obsessing over the future, not just like obsessing over the past, and just actually being where your feet are right now. I thought it was sick. I thought it was so powerful. And I did these every day for like 10 weeks. I'm pretty sure it's 10 weeks. And I felt so much better, and the guy that was leading it, he, I can't remember if he was a PhD in this area, but he basically mentioned how, the brain, the neuroplasticity of how we actually change synaptic, I'm going to butcher this, but there's like an actual physiological change that happens with thoughts, and you actually do see changes at the brain level from things like this. And I don't know that for a fact, but he told me it's so I'm going to trust him in confidence that he is not going to lie to me. But yeah, it's something to really think about, and it's one of those that I think I've kind of taken with me a lot. And you don't even need 10 minutes after a while. It really is a case of when I finish this podcast, I can be sat in this chair and just take a minute. Okay, just take a minute to actually think about what I'm feeling, where I am. Yeah, I thought it was unreal. And we spoke about that in our psychology workshops as well, which, yeah, buzzing. And yeah, there's a few other little things that I took from the whole mindfulness experience actually was, you are not your thoughts. And that's some of the things they spoke about quite a lot is you are not your thoughts. Okay. You can have bad thoughts. You can have negative thoughts. You can have any thoughts in the world, but you are not that thing. Like it just is what it is. You don't have to obsess over it. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to give it any power. Okay. It can literally just float through. It is just, imagine it's a cloud in the sky, and it just goes. You can look at it, cool, but you don't have to engage in a conversation. You don't have to dissect it. And I feel like it's really tricky. If you are somebody at the moment that feels like you are quite a negative person and you want to change and you feel like it's not, a quality you want to kind of be associated with, it will take a little bit of time, I feel. And I say that from somebody that's definitely been there as well. But you don't have to let your thoughts win with it. You know, you really can just kind of observe it, let it go. So yeah, give mindfulness a go. I'm a big fan, and yeah, it did a lot for me. So yeah, I think kind of bringing this round then, we've got a few things there. You know, surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with 5 happy people. You're going to be the 6th. Okay, get rid of the energy vampires in your life, in your career, whatever, as best as you can. I think appreciating some perspective, some gratitude, you know, thinking about the Alan Watts story of, you know, life is not a journey necessarily. It is more about music and, you know, just enjoying it. And then finally, body scan, being present and really kind of locking into where you are at the moment. So powerful for me. Yeah, so there's a few bits for you. Again, if you enjoy this type of episode, do let me know if there's anything that I said today that, you know, you want to have a little bit of a conversation around. Let's do it. I'm more than happy to do so. I do these to kind of spark up a little bit of conversation. And I know they get listens because I see all the analytics. So, you know, I know people are listening. So the more you want to reach out, the better for me. But yeah, hope you are all well. Let's get that positive energy. Okay, that is the end of today's episode, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you did, please do let us know and then share it with somebody who may find this episode interesting. Okay, see you next time. Cheers.